Hi, Brigid. Hi, Taylor. How are you?
Hi, good. Nice to see you.
Good.
You. Thanks for coming. Thanks for sitting and chatting with us today.
Absolutely. Yeah, anytime.
Thanks. So, just a quick start question: Where are you working? Where are you guys?
We are at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville's Department of Anthropology. We're in their zooarchaeology, archaeology lab space right now on a nice sort of Thursday morning, just hanging out, getting some work done. Yeah.
So, what's your favorite thing about your job there? That sounds fascinating. So, what is your particular favorite thing about it?
Sure. My particular favorite thing is I'm just crazy about the bones in general. So I manage the collection here. And so getting to kind of like play around with bones and like identify things every day, it kind of makes every day a puzzle. So it's probably my favorite thing.
Yeah. I definitely agree. I love working with the animal bones and the animal remains that we get to work with in our reference collection. I think for me, one of my favorite things about my job is I obviously, we're PhD students, so we research and then have our work that we do. So Taylor manages the collection, and I get to teach a zooarchaeology course. So I really love introducing students to zooarchaeology as its like specific discipline in archaeology and how the methods that we use can really help augment and support other lines of archaeological and anthropological study in general, and kind of introduce them to those methods. And it's always fun to see them, start to get excited about the possibilities. So, yeah.
That's awesome. And that's such a particular thing to focus on. How did you get into archaeology and what keeps you in it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I got into archaeology. I started obviously studying it in undergrad, but my interest in kind of the broader past and history and sort of material culture studies of the past really started when I was really young. My family lived in Boston for a little bit while my dad was in graduate school there. And because we were living on a graduate student budget with a family of 4, we were always looking for public things that were free to do and kind of things for us to do as young kids. And so my mom really emphasized taking us to a lot of the historical sites and interpretations and events that Boston as a city does for the history there. And so that kind of sparked my interest in not just kind of learning about history, but also seeing how history can be interpreted for the public and sort of the job of public historian, which I think really integrates well with archaeology and sort of studying the past through a material culture lens, in addition to, some of the things that, historians do with like documents and things like that. So that's my story.
Mine is definitely a little shorter.
Sorry, I know my.
So I've always like you've been interested in history and science and kind of felt this was like the best kind of mix to do both. I won't lie, originally when I started in my undergrad, I was very much like a forensic anthropology person. But I did my first field school and I realized I absolutely love digging square holes. And but also like going through that and like having animal bones come out of the unit that you're digging at your field school, I realized like there's a wider, broader world of bones that doesn't necessarily need to be forensic. So that plus the love of digging kind of solidified this for me.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because I was the same exact way. The forensic side and like loving the skeletal remains, but yeah, there's so much more to it than just that.
Absolutely.
So you two are actually the only 2 contributors for Maryland Archaeology Month that are not in Maryland. So can you tell us a little bit about your topic and how you even came to be doing this?
Yeah, so we are working on this project, the 2 of us, and then another colleague, PhD candidate now. She just passed her exams. Congrats to Elizabeth Taroulis. And the 3 of us all work in historical archaeology with our dissertation research. And the University of Tennessee Knoxville department has a lot of faculty that have worked in historical Chesapeake context. So even though we're in Tennessee, we have that kind of research link. And so we were just sitting in our offices one day about a year and a half ago talking about different topics in Chesapeake archaeology and different sort of studies that we had seen that were kind of more, I guess, niche or interesting. in terms of just like, unique artifacts and stuff. And another one of our colleagues, Rebecca Webster, who's also done work with MacLab, mentioned that she knew of this condom as an artifact that had been found at the Oxon Hill or Addison site, and had seen the write-up that Sarah Rivers Cofield had done about it. And so we were all like, that's so interesting. That's amazing. Like, I want to know more about it. So we Googled it and we found a Mental Floss article that kind of talked about Sarah's work with the artifact and kind of how it had gone on exhibit with the MacLab. And at the end of the article, they mentioned specifically
asking or looking for a way to identify the, whatever the condom is made out of to species. So they had previously done DNA analysis on it and didn't get any sort of hit from that. And so they had kind of at the end of the article put like a call for like, if you know a way to identify this, we are interested in doing that. And so when we saw that, we were like, interesting, we actually have something we think would work for that, so that is Zooms or zooarchaeology by mass spectrometry. But essentially it uses your like collagen instead of your DNA to identify and kind of match to species of animal.
Yeah, and so being able to identify the species was going to give a little bit more context to this artifact and help, broaden the research scope of the questions that we could ask with it in terms of like where were these objects being made? Were they being imported? Were they being made locally? Is it definitely, a condom? And so we emailed the contact information, and through a series of emails and conversations at different conferences, we were able to put a proposal in to get access to the artifact and then run some tests. And we were able to confirm that it was a sheep that made the artifact. And we presented those results at a research conference in January. So.
Wow, that is so interesting. I have like almost no experience with that kind of lab setting. So it is just fascinating to me that you can tell that. It's really cool.
Yeah.
So why do you think this is an important topic to talk about now?
I think there's a variety of different reasons. First, archaeologically, at least, the systematic excavation of this material is the reason it still exists. And so I think it's really advocating for like continued systematic excavation, like everyday people shouldn't just, dig up what they have on their property because, artifacts like this wouldn't get noticed or picked up on, because when they originally excavated it, they believed it was a piece of paper or like some sort of paper material. And that's with archaeologists trained to kind of look for these things. So if you're not trained to, it could be easily something that you pass over or you don't have the context for anymore. And so interesting stuff like this can't happen.
Yeah, I mean, when we received the piece that we were given of the artifact to analyze, we actually were like, oh my gosh, like what if it turns out to be a leaf and we've like ruined like the story behind, like it does not look like, a piece of leather or something like that. So that's why the molecular analysis is really important. But also like what Taylor was saying is it's really important to emphasize that these are the types of artifacts that can get lost when you don't have that kind of systematic excavation, and when they don't get turned over to appropriate archival and conservationists or institutions so that they can actually get preserved for this research. The artifact was actually dug, I believe, in the 90s. So it's been in MacLab's collection since then. And then Sarah found it in the collection as listed as a paper artifact several years ago. And then we just now started working on it in the past year. So again, that link from the ground to us is almost 20 years old. And it's something that, probably would have just been discarded had we not had more systematic methods. So we love to see people interested in archaeology. Obviously, I'm, talking about my interest in archaeology, a product of, that kind of public archaeology and introducing that to the public. But we really hope that, talking about this project now can really help people understand why it's important to contact professionals, or, if you want to work with archaeological material, talk about going in and volunteering at a lab or volunteering in a controlled setting with professionals, rather than just kind of going through things on your own, because you may not always know what could be there and what you're discarding. So,
yeah. And that's a wonderful point to make too, is that even sometimes the experts need experts.
Yeah,
We-
absolutely.
We don't know everything, so we
Mhm.
have to go one up. So that's a great point.
And the methods that we're using today were not available even when, Sarah found the condom in the archives. Zooms was developing, but it's much more widely used now. So again, preserving for not just, people to be able to continue and pick it up for new research projects, but new techniques and methods that aren't available at the time of excavation, we're still able to get, good data out of today.
Yeah, great points. Thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today, and thank you for your work. And you're certainly welcome to come back and work on more Maryland stuff. We'd love to have you.
We'll actually be, we found out this week, our project was awarded the Gloria S. King Fellowship.
Oh,
The research fellow. Thank you. Yeah, so we'll actually be coming to Mac Lab for about a week this summer to do some additional analysis of the collection of bones that the condom was kind of excavated with or associated with on the site, so that we can try and find out whether the sheep that we have identified, whether he lived in England or whether he lived in the colonies, and that will help us get at maybe whether or not this was an imported item or if it was made locally. So
wow, congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah, so we'll be back. We're excited.
Very cool.
Thank you so much for including us. We've had a great time talking to everybody and, putting more of the work out there. So
Absolutely. Well, thanks guys. And
Yeah.
hopefully we'll see you this summer.
yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Thanks.
All right. See ya.
Bye.
Yeah.